Imagine a vacation where every detail is tailored just for you. That's the dream Vacations and Rentals by PMI difference. We're not just another rental company. We're your personal vacation curators focused on you, our guest. From hand-picked properties to curated local experiences, we craft personalized journeys. Our marketing reaches you with the perfect options, matching your unique travel style. With Dream Vacations and Rentals by PMI, your perfect getaway is just a click away. Visit our website to book your dream vacation today and experience the PMI difference.
All right, welcome my beautiful people to STR News and Digest. Once again, forgive me for my voice. I've been struggling with bronchitis. Started with a cold and turned into bronchitis. But anyway, today I want to go over some interesting news. During last week's STR News and Digest, I mentioned on how a lot of people in the industry are now speculating or now saying that there's going to be a big downturn in the tourist industry because of what's happening related to the tariffs. Again, I'm just reporting the news, what's being reported out there, but I personally am not seeing what they're saying. I am seeing, and I am going to talk about some of the stuff that's in the news that is definitely happening, but this downturn, and I'm going to give you some of the numbers, doesn't make sense to me because I'm not personally seeing it. As I showed you, or I mentioned in March, it was a record month in March. So I don't know. We'll see what the future holds. But right now, I'm going to talk about some downgrades that some of these travel experts have put on the industry. We're going to talk about what's happening in Europe, specifically Spain. This I know is happening, and I'm going to touch on it in a second. And I'm going to talk about the latest performance metrics from the hotel sector. Now, the sequence is very similar to last week's, and this is why there's a little bit of a disconnect, because although you're having people say that there has been a downturn, the hotel industry is not seeing it, and me personally am not seeing it. But it's what's being in the news, and I want to pass that on. But before I get into that, let me talk about some interesting sales that are being put up. If you ever flown on Emirates, you know how great it is to fly on Emirates. It is luxury at its finest. It is probably the best customer service, if not the best customer service you will ever receive from any airline. They're different, people. They're just different. So they have huge sales right now. If you're flying out of any hub, international hub on the East Coast, here's what they're offering right now. If you fly first class with them to Italy, Greece, Spain, France, you can fly business class with them for $3,425, $3,425. Extremely cheap. I've flown on them before, and I thought I got a great discount, and I paid $5,000 and up. So at $3,400, it is cheap. Now, if you want to go to India, which normally here from India, also very expensive, $4,629. You want to go to Africa, $5,205. You want to go to the Middle East, Egypt, EU, etc., $5,669. You want to go to Asia from the East Coast, people, just keep that in mind. You want to go to Thailand, Singapore, Pakistan, etc., $5,899. These prices are crazy. Now, let me give you another set from another fares. Now, this is from United Airlines to Europe, Italy, Spain, UK, $2,179. Let me put this in perspective. I purchased, I think what I paid for is exactly this. And I'm not flying. I'm flying to Germany, and I'm paying this price. But this price, I paid for it a couple of months ago. And again, if you follow this channel, you know that if you book your flights in advance, most of the time they're going to be much cheaper. Now it's the same price, but you can book any date. You can leave tomorrow, and it's $21.79. India is $32.65. Asia is $32.45. The Middle East is $25.65. Africa is $36.65. So if we compare, there's really no comparison when it comes to the service and the accommodations you get business class at Emirates versus United. But United is $34.25 to Europe, and United Airlines is $21.79. People, that extra $1,000 and change is well worth it to go on Emirates versus going on United. Maybe it's up to you guys which one you're going to use. But if I had the choice and I have the money, I'm always going to pick Emirates over any other airline. Now, let's get into some of these stories. I'm going to turn my attention to an article that came up at the Morningstar. They downgraded the 2025 revenue growth outlook for major OTAs, major online travel companies. Again, these are some of their factors. They're saying that they're downgrading it because of the escalating tariffs, the economy concerns, and because of the travel advisories that countries like Germany and the UK have issued. Now, I'm not going to go into more detail than that, but they're saying there's going to be a decline. Now they also examined a drop in foreign visits to the US, particularly from European countries. Data indicates that more than 20% year over year, there's a 20% year over year decline in arrivals at major US airports during the month of March. Analysts attribute that decrease because of the political tension that I just talked about, stricter immigration policies, and fears of detainment or harassment at the airports. Okay. Again, I personally have not seen this. None of the people that are in my network have seen any of this. So, in fact, I mentioned last time that we had, or last week's STR News, that I asked some of the Canadian visitors that are staying in my properties if anything that was happening around the world influenced whether they were coming or not. Obviously, it didn't, because they came. In fact, all of them, I talked to 4 couples. All but one said they're not even aware of any tensions. One said they were aware of the tariffs, and that Canada had issued like a boycott notice, but they said, they're here because they don't feel they should participate in that boycott. So anyway, let's move on. Shifting focus to domestic hospitality sector, the U.S. hotel industry reported mixed performance results for February 2025. Occupancy rates saw an increase of 0.5%, an average rate rise of 1.4%, leading to a revenue per availability uptick of 1.9%. Now, again, although this growth is modest, it's still a growth. So I don't see how what this other person said from Morningstar, that they saw a 20% decline. I mean, where? I don't know. Again, I don't have the actual data in front of me. So even though we have seen an increase, the hotel industry has seen an increase, it may be just an increase in domestic travel and not taking into account foreign travel. But who knows? if there's a decline because it's not mentioning it in this report with the hotel industry. So we're not 100% sure if that increase was just due to the domestic travel. But I just don't. Currently, I mean, I'm not saying it can't happen next month, but currently I am not seeing a decline in foreign travelers. In fact, our numbers are saying that they were graded for March, and now in April we're still seeing a stable influx of foreign travelers. And keeping in mind, this is another thing that you have to really understand. Most Europeans don't travel during this time anyway. Where we're really going to see if the tariffs or any political tension is going to take effect is if we see a decline in foreign travelers for July and August, because the majority of the people take their holiday on July and August. Hence why I always say, don't travel on July and August because everything goes up. So that's when we're going to know if there's any effect here. I don't know. I just firmly believe that most people just hate Trump and they want to go ahead and put any negative news on him because I'm not seeing these numbers. Anyway, so let's talk about, I only have one more story I want to talk about. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, in the airline sector, major carriers such as Delta, American, and Southwest have received 2025 outlooks that appear to be on the downward trend. This adjustment reflects anticipated reduction in both corporate and leisure travel demand influenced by economic uncertainty and challenging customer behavior. As the travel and hospitality industry navigates these turbulent times, staying in front and adapted is crucial. We continue to monitor these developments and provide updated information. We'll provide updated information in the future. Now, again, I looked at the TSA numbers as to travel, comparing travel in March and now in the beginning of April to what it was last year, and there's an actual increase of travel. So where are these concerns coming from? I have no idea. But I'm personally not seeing any of this. Well, time will tell. And like I said, the true test will come in July and August as it relates to foreign travel. Now, I want to go over a story that came out in Spain. If you're in the travel industry, or if you're a traveler that's looking to go to Europe, man, you really need to stay on top of the news there. And let me see if I can find the article. Here's what's happening in Spain. There's been riots in Spain. Let me see if I can bring it up real quick. Here it is. Okay, this week, mass protests erupted in Spain, bringing the attention on the ongoing housing crisis, with the short-term rentals cited as a key contributor to the soaring rents and displacements in cities including Barcelona, Paloma, and Malaga. Now, and this is all organized by the housing activists and backed by Spain's main labor union. The protests reflected growing public frustration with the perceived impact of short-term rentals on local community. Spain welcomed a record 94 million international tourists in 2024. Those tourists, and specifically, were in Madrid, Barcelona, Malaga, and they mentioned here Palma, but Palma wasn't one of them that had the most travelers in 2024. But Barcelona definitely was, Madrid definitely was, and Malaga. Now, again, I've talked about this multiple times, and I was questioned as to who's lobbying for this? And there's the answer. It is the housing activists, and Spain's labor union is backing this push and making the short-term rental industry as the bad guy. And I've already talked about this. There isn't any evidence of this. In fact, if I remember correctly, and don't quote me on the number because I don't remember exactly, but I did mention it on other STR News when I actually looked at the data. For example, in Barcelona, which is one of the cities that started this push against short-term rentals, there was only, out of all the housing units in Barcelona, only or less than 2%, and I think it was 1.2% of those not available, of the list of properties in general were short-term rentals. 1.2%. You can't tell me that is a housing crisis issue when only 1.2% of all the available properties are short-term rentals. So again, I don't see those numbers, but I see why the labor industry is pushing, because currently Barcelona, although they have some regulations of where you have to be licensed, hasn't been enforced or been enforced very lightly, and they get no benefit from it, but the hotel industry will benefit from it if they don't have short-term rentals, and that's where the labor union is at. So the hotel industry aren't fighting this fight. They're allowing the labor union to fight this fight. It's really crazy. And the sad part is that these politicians are not doing the studies that are required, and they're just, hearing these the minority, loud voice people, and they're making economic adjustments to these short-term rentals without really doing studies on it. Anyway, that's all I want to talk about. Again, if you're traveling to Europe, specifically Greece, because there's a big push against short-term rentals right now. Spain, specifically Barcelona. In fact, if you look at the study, if you look at some of the news there, tourists have been attacked while visiting Barcelona. There was one news article in which a group of activists were using water pistols to spray water and telling tourists, go home, go home. Pretty sad. Anyway, if there's no questions, no comments, I'm going to end this. You guys.
Here in Instagram, Averishma say this is a real concern. Glad you are mentioning it. Interesting facts to hear from perspective on short-term rental business in Spain. So hello to her. She's from Spain.
Yeah. It's thank you for commenting. Yeah, it's a big issue in Spain right now. So if you're a short-term rental operator there, you got to be part of your I don't know if it's VRMA, but I know it's the European Tourist Organization. You got to be part of that. You got to voice your concerns and ask for studies, ask for numbers, because they can't provide them. I know they can't. New York City, when they did it, they couldn't provide it. And Airbnb went and did their study and realized that when they created that ban, not only did not help, it made the matter worse. So anyway, and if you're a traveler, like I said, stay abreast of this, because you're going to be paying more at hotels if things don't change in Spain. You're definitely going to pay a lot more. But all right, guys, love you. See you on the next one.